Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're leading a company today, you already know the drill. We're all trying to figure out how to transition from just buying expensive, short term acquisitions to actually building a self sustaining internal innovation engine. It's tough, right? So today, we're unpacking a high level playbook designed specifically for CEOs and senior leaders who want to literally future proof their organizations from the inside out. Let's get right into it. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to tackle the classic build versus buy dilemma, talk about the CEO's innovation mandate, and then walk through 3 actionable steps: cultivating safe spaces, executing with design thinking, and managing your portfolio. Finally, we'll wrap up with how to track those crucial long-term metrics. All right, part 1, the build versus buy dilemma. So we have to start with a bit of a reality check. When you're charting the future of your enterprise, consider this. 79% of companies globally rank innovation as a top 3 priority. I mean, of course they do. But here's the staggering part. Only 3% are truly innovation ready. Just 3%. That means only a tiny, tiny fraction of us actually have the internal systems and culture needed to consistently deliver results. The desire is everywhere, but the actual capability? Yeah, that's incredibly rare. And that massive gap brings us right to our core dilemma. When you're staring down that readiness gap, it is so tempting to just, buy your innovation. You do some M&A, maybe hire flashy external consultants. And sure, buying can give you those quick wins, but let's be honest, it really just treats the symptom and masks internal weaknesses. Plus, you're usually dealing with high premiums, total integration nightmares, and brutal cultural clashes. On the flip side, the build approach, doing it internally, develops a robust, lasting muscle. You get compounding capabilities, much higher long-term returns, and way deeper employee engagement. Because without that internal muscle, honestly, even the shiny new tech you buy is probably going to falter. Moving on to part 2, the CEO's innovation mandates. As executives, we've all heard that culture eats strategy for breakfast. But guess what? That culture starts right at the top, with us. Take a look at this insight from Piyush Gupta. He's the guy who completely transformed DBS Bank into the world's best digital bank. He hits the nail on the head here, reminding us that an innovation culture doesn't just magically appear out of thin air. You have to deliberately drive it. You've got to build the frameworks and loudly signal to your team that it is absolutely okay to try and fail. Without our active protection as CEOs, let's face it, innovation just turns into corporate theater. And here is the bottom line. Aligning your core business strategy with your innovation efforts is not just a nice theory. It yields real, tangible returns. When you tightly weave those innovation goals into your overall corporate strategy, companies actually see, on average, a 5 percentage point bump in sales coming straight from new products. That's huge. Innovation can't just be some cute side project. It literally has to mirror exactly where your company is heading. Okay, so how do we actually do this? Let's open up our core playbook. We're going to break this down into 3 actionable steps to structure the chaos and build a real internal engine your teams can actually execute on. Part 3, Step 1, cultivating safe spaces. This first step is all about culture and people. It's about giving your employees the psychological safety to experiment, stepping outside the rigid confines of strict quarterly targets. Look at how massive legacy incumbents across totally different sectors are doing this to tap into the hidden genius already sitting in their offices. Nestle crowdsourced over 7,000 ideas from their own employees and boiled them down to 84 real-world pilots. Siemens set up an internal bootcamp that literally turns employees into startup founders, and they saw a massive spike in innovation focus. And Microsoft? Their global hackathon breaks down all those stubborn corporate silos, letting tens of thousands of people from HR to engineering just collaborate on passion projects. And honestly, the secondary benefits of creating these safe spaces are just as game-changing as the products themselves. When you suspend that fear of failure, you aren't just building a new product pipeline. You are radically improving morale, loyalty, and talent retention. Turns out, when employees feel like their creativity is actually valued, they become fiercely loyal change agents right inside your firm. All right, part 4, Step 2, design thinking execution. So, we've got the culture, now we need the process. We have to systematically equip our people to take those raw, messy ideas and turn them into validated realities. Now, I know design thinking sounds like a corporate buzzword, but we have to treat it as a disciplined, non-negotiable framework. It's the mechanism that ensures we actually validate market needs and test prototypes before, and I mean before, we authorize spending millions of dollars on scaling. It gives your internal teams the exact toolkit they need to fail fast, learn even faster, and push ideas through a systematic pipeline.
And when you combine that structured design thinking with agile execution and rapid prototyping, you massively accelerate your speed to market. Get this, at DBS Bank, using this exact approach cut their AI project deployment times from 18 months down to just 5 months. That is absolutely wild. That's the kind of operational velocity you need to outpace those nimble disruptors snapping at your heels.
Part 5, Step 3, Portfolio Management. Once you've got ideas flowing and a solid process to test them, this third step is absolutely crucial. You have to govern these initiatives exactly like you would a diversified financial investment portfolio. The Doblin heuristic gives us a really great visual for optimal resource allocation. You protect your steady core operations by dedicating about 70% of your innovation spend to incremental improvements. Then, put about 20% toward exploring adjacent markets or products. But, and this is key, you must reserve a calculated 10% for those high-risk, high-impact transformational moonshots. You're taking multiple shots on goal here, knowing full well that this 10% will have a high failure rate, but the potential payoff, it's astronomical. But managing this kind of portfolio requires immense executive discipline. We literally have to cultivate the courage to stop experiments that just aren't panning out. A failed pilot that gives you clear data, that is not a failure, folks. That is harvested learning. And stopping those doomed projects quickly is what frees up your crucial capital and talent for the next big idea. Innovation is just as much about what you stop doing as what you continue.
Finally, Part 6, Tracking Long-Term Metrics.
To protect this newly built engine from what I like to call the corporate immune system, we have to fundamentally redefine how we measure success. Look, if you judge a fragile, brand new idea strictly by traditional quarterly output metrics, you're going to kill it before it even learns to walk. So you have to distinctly track input metrics, things like the number of ideas submitted or staff trained, and process metrics, like your cycle time to build a prototype. You track those alongside your traditional outputs to create a protective buffer. This is how you make sure your nascent projects aren't just prematurely crushed by middle management trying to meet short-term balance sheet demands. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, absolutely critical thought. Buying innovation through acquisitions is basically just buying fish. Sure, it might feed your quarterly earnings for a season, but building your internal innovation engine, that's teaching your entire company to fish for a lifetime. So the real question is, are you going to rely on external acquisitions to just mask your internal weaknesses? Or will you step up, do the hard work as a leader, and build the innovation engine your company's future actually demands? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for joining me today, and keep building.